So for the next couple of lessons, we are going to be focusing on political parties, how they're kind of a natural occurrence in a democracy like the United States has, what function they serve in today's society, and you guessed it, what strategy and reaction are they having to the current coronavirus pandemic that we are all suffering. You're probably really getting sick of me relating everything we're talking about in government to the coronavirus, but I can't help it, and you know we would be doing the exact same thing if we were in class. So let's kind of introduce political parties in no other way than turning to the Federalist Essays. Do not worry, I'm not going to make you read this, but let me kind of use some of my favorite Federalist essays to introduce us into this idea and the natural occurrence of political parties in a democratic society like the United States. In Federalist number 10, one of my favorites, Madison explained that factions are a natural result of human liberty and cannot be prevented from forming in a free society. They're going to exist. Not everybody's the same, therefore they feel like they have to have some type of representation for their interests and their beliefs. Therefore, government should be organized to control the effects of factions. Madison went on to refer to principles such as limited government, republicanism, separation of powers, checks and balances, in addition to the need for virtue in citizens themselves. Now, we've talked about all of these concepts. Okay, we've talked about checks and balances, limited government, separation of powers, and we've even spent a few classes talking about civic virtue. So it was clear that the nation could not only rely on virtue alone to control the effects of factions. He stated in the Federalist number 10, it is in vain so that enlightened statesmen will be able to adjust these clashing interests and render them all subservient in the public good. Enlightened statesmen will not always be at the helm. And we see that. Not all politicians are angels at all the time. Okay, and we'll see a little more reference to this when we get to Federalist 51. Federalist number 10, though, explains it is also apparent that through Federalist number 10, we see that it was apparent that the founding generation understood the critical role that virtue would play in preserving and extending liberty in America. The founders knew that people cannot rely merely on government institutions and systems to protect our rights. Therefore, we see the advent of political parties. So for the first part of this assignment, you're going to spend some time looking at excerpts of these founding documents to understand why factions exist in society, and then we'll get into the modern functions of political parties.